This is a mixture of After Effects animation and handmade stuff.
I'm going to drop you off in Canada near some of the oldest rocks ever found.
So these clouds are tissue paper. They're tissue paper that's just balled up and then spread out into sort of a cloud shape. So they have this textural feel. And then these pieces of the earth are pieces of construction paper that were ripped up and scanned. So I had a bunch of these elements like the clouds, the ground, rocks, and I placed them again in a 3D environment. So seen from above, it might look like this. You've got a bunch of layers that are pieces of the terrain, and then way in the background so that it moves not at all, like a sky is pretty stationary. Here's the sky, which is just one big piece of construction paper. And then the clouds are hanging out in front. And then you've got a digital camera up here that is viewing this entire scene. So when the camera moves side to side, you have this cool parallax visual where things that are closer are moving more relative to the camera. It looks three-dimensional. It really adds some depth to the scene. 2 of the layers that were included were green-screened versions of Joe and my hand here. So those were also layers placed somewhere in the middle of the landscape. And I cut out the background with this tool called RotoBrush, which is a rotoscoping tool that's just within After Effects. You paint over the parts you want to keep, and then the rest is erased, and then it extrapolates from that one frame that you've painted over forward through the whole sequence. It's not perfect. You have to go in and make little adjustments and say, oh, at this point you lost his hand, and you have to paint over that to tell the program what pieces you want to keep. And then I could animate him to look like he's dangling. So I put him at this weird angle. I have him sort of swaying back and forth. And then when I release him, he did a little acting where he crouched down as if he had just hit the ground and stood back up. So it's really a collaboration between the amazing acting skills of Joe and the animation process. Then the last 2 elements that I added were a couple of Canadian animals. Because this was Canada, I wanted something that said, here we are in Canada. So these are actually stock video that I took and cut out with the RotoBrush. And then the antlers individually for this moose. I cut out the tail and the face of this little Arctic fox and applied those outlines to, again, another piece of construction paper. So it's all construction paper. Some of it's real. It has these little ripples and bends of physical paper, and some of it is digital with a texture applied. And that's, again, trying to unify all of these different visuals under one aesthetic that feels a little bit more handmade. Halfway through this shot, I sort of gently step off the stool and appear to Superman up into the air. It's a constant zooming in that brings us back to the lab that was the focus of this episode. That was just a bunch of parenting, where you're asking one layer to take on the action of another layer. I wanted to transition from real footage into this animated world that would carry us through the rest of the episode.